All right, let's get this going. First of all, thanks everybody for joining this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. This is our semi-weekly town hall. We kind of use this. We kind of split the agenda for these into, a little bit of updates about our technology and programs development, and then we jump into sometimes some little previews and walkthroughs of things that we're doing, and then we open it up for Q&A. This is a bit of a weird one because we usually do these on the Tuesdays following a big Monday meeting where we document all the outputs that we've been building. But this is the last week in our season, and we also had half the team off yesterday, so we don't have that same list of updates, but we do have some cool things to share. Also, for those of you that this is kind of your first time at a town hall, or maybe you're trying to figure out what Tableland is all about. Tableland, we're building a novel protocol that right now is connected to the Ethereum testnet Rinkeby, but in the very near future, and that's something we can talk about today, is coming to mainnet and a few L2s. And this protocol allows you essentially to create structured data off of your smart contracts. And it's structured as tables of rows and columns that you can query with SQL. And there's a lot of cool use cases that are bubbling up about how to build with this and what this kind of primitive allows you to do. Kind of at the core of it all is creating metadata for NFTs. And what's really interesting with Tableland is you can store metadata that you can then join with other data. You can join with data from other projects. And you can create permissions on that data that it can be updated and changed by, say, the owners of an NFT, members of a DAO, whatever on-chain rules you want to create. So there's a lot of really cool ways you can configure that, and it becomes a really neat data building block. If you go to our developer use cases in our docs, you can see a lot of different examples of things to build. But yeah, just wanted to give you all some grounding there in case you're just passing by and trying to get to know this. So I shared a little agenda down in the introductions. Like I said, I think we don't have so many big announcements around the technology this week, but that gets to the first bullet point, which is our season 4 is coming. So we kind of all huddle up next week to start a big planning week where we'll plan out the next 3.5 months of work that get us, closer to having this protocol and token on mainnet. And so we should have some really good outputs next week and the week following about both what are the concrete deliverables that we'll have coming out on the network, and we'll be kind of wrapping up what the last 3 months of work accomplished and putting out some cool stuff. I think among those cool things, we are right now going through a docs overhaul. So if you go look at our docs today, they're a little bit a snapshot in time from when we launched the MVP. And so they're really actually only showing a tiny fraction of what's already possible with Tableland. And we felt a little bit like it was like updating Gitbooks the way that we were doing was actually a little too slow for how fast we're actually building this technology. So we're going through a migration right now, and we'll have our docs actually running on Notion and building a web page with a tool called Super that just reads your Notion pages and outputs docs. But what's really cool about that is we can then, I think, iterate on these much faster, keep it up to date, and even invite community members in to author content and take care of content. If you want to take any of those responsibilities, that's awesome too. So docs are coming. Our aim is to have kind of a skeleton of that overhaul done very soon, and then in that output from season 3 and starting season 4, we'll start dumping in a lot of new stuff. The other thing I wanted to point out was something I just hinted at, which is that network support. Right now, the Tableland smart contract runs on Rinkeby, but as part of the season 3 work, we have been getting it ready to launch on a couple new L2s and on Ethereum mainnet. So that means that you'll be able to create tables directly on those networks. So like if you're building an application where your MetaMask wallet is connected to Ethereum, for example, you could actually not have to change networks and just create tables and execute SQL against that network. So that's really exciting. So look out for that. And if you're getting ready to build things, just feel free to ping us and ask details about that. What's also coming in that update, which is really exciting, is that ability to execute SQL directly on the smart contract. And that opens up all sorts of crazy cool things we can build. And so hopefully we'll be highlighting that in upcoming workshops. And like I said in the docs, some really neat stuff coming. Two more things in kind of the announcements category. Last week we ran a workshop on Friday, and we gave another developer DAO membership away, and we have a winner for that. Actually, the winner is here. So Rohit Ramesh, you actually won our membership, DAO membership. So we'll ping you after the town hall and figure out how to get that transferred over to you. So congrats and thanks for taking part in the workshop and submitting your name. So that's awesome. Okay, that was, actually, last really big thing is if you haven't already figured out how to join a fleet, we just have kind of this fun little thing in our Discord where you can join a fleet, and fleets are these different groups of rigs, which are the Tableland NFT that's coming. And I think it'd be really nice just for folks that haven't been following this. We'll give you a little introduction to that towards the back end of the town hall, what that NFT is, and some sneak peeks potentially. But if you join one of those fleets, which you can find in you can find the join tool in the rig fleets category of channels. If you join those fleets, that's where we'll share you some more sneak peeks and news about your specific fleet that you're interested in joining. And yeah, I'll save the rest of that for later. Hopefully Sander can actually chat for a bit about what's going on with rigs and some cool stuff there. A couple more updates. So yeah, I said that we had this workshop on Friday. If you missed that, Carson walked through how to use Tableland in a Svelte app. So like building a front-end app essentially that can read directly from Tableland tables and do some more neat things. So that's now up on our YouTube channel. There's a link in the agenda. We tweeted last week about our Nft Nyc plans. We don't actually have many concrete dates or times on that, but we are going to Nft Nyc. A group of us from the team will be there. And so if you're going to be there, reach out. We'd love to meet up with you and let us know what cool events we should be at. We're just going to be trying to attend everything and talk about Tableland a lot. We do have a talk on the main stage. We have a couple talks on the main stage. And then, yeah, we'll just be spread out all over the city for the few days there. Last thing in the general updates, I was hoping maybe, Carson, you could come and chat about the SQL spec and what the significance is of that and how people could learn a bit more about what you've been doing there.
Hello, test. Everybody can hear me? So if you take a look in the notes that Andrew posted for this call, we've got a link in there to the official preliminary Tableland SQL specification. So we went through a lot of iteration, and this is a pretty small spec based on the SQLite SQL language spec and data type spec. In particular, sort of like strict.
Maybe back up, Carson, because maybe there's folks here that are even just learning what SQL is.
Well, I'm not going to give a crash course in SQL.
Yeah, why is the spec important? And yeah, what are you doing there that would be helpful for them to navigate that?
Yeah, so we have this SQL spec structured query language. So it's a way to query tabular data and make relational queries between tables and between assets and things like that, stored in a relational database. In this case, stored on the Tableland network. And you can do a lot of really cool things with SQL, like the types of queries that you might expect a web app to use, like find me all the users who are logged in and have specified their avatar, or find me all of the weather records where it was rain find me all the days in this database where it was raining. Bunch of more powerful queries like that, or things like find me all of the weather records where it was raining and it was a Tuesday and Carson's ETH balance on Rinkeby testnet was greater than 2. So you can start to do these extremely, complex and very powerful queries. Why you would want to know all that stuff? Well, there's probably a correlation between my ETH balance and the weather outside. And so you might want to figure that out. There are many, many databases out there that support structured query language, SQL. And basically every single one of them implements the spec a little bit differently. And there are some standards out there, but just about no database is fully compliant. So you have things like Postgres and SQLite and MySQL and lots of other databases that you maybe have heard of. And Tableland supports a specific subset of the types of queries that you can do, and a specific subset of data types that you can stick in columns. So you can stick things like strings or numbers or just arbitrary blobs of data, like an image would be a lot of data, but a very small image or a hash from a transaction on Ethereum or things like that, or a reference to an image stored somewhere else. So if you're an NFT developer and you want to deploy your NFT metadata on Tableland, you can do that, and then you can link that to other bits of data in and around the internet via strings and things like that. So we've released a spec which specifies exactly the types of data that you're allowed to put in a table, how much of those different types of data you're allowed to put in the table, how many rows you can put, how many columns, and then the types of queries that you're allowed to perform to actually then get that data back out of the table. And exactly how you can even how to create the table and all that stuff. Whether you can delete rows, whether you can delete columns, whether you can update rows, blah blah blah. So we've released this spec, and you can, if you're interested, you can go in and read through it. Probably more realistically, it would be a useful resource where, when trying to develop an application, where you're trying to figure out, okay, if I want my users to be able to update their NFT metadata, what sort of call do I need? Oh, let's search for update. Okay, here's what update does, and these are the types of things that I can do with it. And so right now, Tableland actually supports a lot more operations than the specification specifies. But as we sort of develop out the network and we deploy more decentralized validators for the network, those validators will be working against the official spec. And we might get to a point where someone says, hey, this spec doesn't cover a really important use case that I need. And we'll have ways to update that so that community members and other core members of the Tableland network can make suggestions on how we can improve the specification and then do so. And more about that will come over time. We'll probably come up with a cool name for that process. But in the meantime, we do have a few features in there that are there, and they're considered to be features at risk. So these are things where we're not sure if they should make it into the final spec or not. And so if you're at all interested in something like foreign keys in tables, if you know what that means and you care about it, you might want to pop in there and take a look. But I think for the most part, it turns out you can do a lot of amazing things with SQL with a very small subset of the types of things that you can do on huge major databases. Like really what you need to be able to do is create tables, insert rows, and then query those rows and do some joins. And Tableland and the spec that we've developed will support exactly those types of operations. So I would challenge a lot of people, who are SQL gurus to take a look at the spec and try and find some things that we can't do that are sort of common operations that our minimal spec can't handle. I think you can get really far with what we've developed so far. Yeah, is that what you're looking for, Andrew? I can delve into some
Right.
details of it, but I think that's probably enough for folks to get a feel for what we're
Nope,
talking about.
I think that's great. I think we'll have some good demos and docs around this stuff coming up. So yeah, really good. All right, so the next things I wanted to do are mostly around opening this up for discussion. I didn't really have much to say about season 4 now, but if any of you have any questions about kind of what's coming or anything that I already mentioned, feel free to just raise your hand and we can bring you up to ask those questions. Anybody on the team can feel free to raise your hand or just jump up on stage and join the conversation now. But yeah, we like happy to answer anything about season 4. But I think actually just to keep this moving, maybe Sander, are you down to talk about rigs for a minute? Elevator music. Can't hear you if you're talking.
How about now?
Oh,
Nice. Um, let's see. So rigs. Let's see. I can share my screen. No, I don't know if I can do that in here actually. Huh. Um, well, yeah. I guess the main update is that we finally released the rigs landing page, and the main thing there is just letting you see all the different combinations and kind of get a feel for the collection and kind of how the trades work in terms of like the generative process. And if you read down in the fleet section of the landing page, which is Tableland.xyz/rigs, you'll see some output from the actual tables that we're using on Tableland to drive the metadata. Aaron from our team has been super heads down on this and coming up with and designing the relational table structure to drive rigs and the badges. And it's super cool. It's like just a totally different way of thinking about how to structure metadata. And if you're like me and you haven't been exclusively dealing with relational data, maybe you've been just in the JSON style IPFS land. It just feels like kind of right. It just feels like the right way to do it. So it's cool to see that coming together. And yeah, once we have those tables on Tableland, I'll add some actual like live queries to that page so you can actually query the metadata. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, we also are showing all the different badges that we have. So the idea with the badges is to really get some actual like in real life utility out of rigs and be able to track contributions from our community to building the network. So you can see there's a badge for like you can earn by contributing code. There's one you can earn by teaching others. There's one that you can earn by doing educational programs. Network validators will get a badge. If you develop like sort of a killer app on the network, you can earn a badge that way. And we have a special one for our friends, all our Filecoin buddies, that basically it's just a Filecoin logo, but it looks like one of our badges. So we'll give those out if you end up leveraging Filecoin and Tableland together. And the cool thing about these badges is they actually transfer with the rig. So we're experimenting with this kind of user experience where you get to leave your fingerprint on the token. You can level it up based on your actual efforts in real life, and then if you want to sell the rig or trade it, obviously up to you. So those kind of experiences are really driven by this ability to have your metadata for your token live in multiple tables, so you can drive the visual structure or just any data. You don't have to show it visually from multiple tables, with whether that's through joins or just multiple queries or whatever. And then, yeah, if you look down at the bottom of the page, there's a nice call out to our friends at Oddfellows, who have just poured an insane amount of time and energy into rigs. And we are grateful for their efforts. Let's see. That's about it. Oh, and then definitely check out, we threw up a page just for the NFT nerd in you to really drill into like all the different combos and stuff. So if you go to /Tableland.xyz/test rigs, you'll be able to browse 1,000 randomly generated rigs. And yeah, even on the main rigs page, if you keep refreshing, it'll pull from that 1,000 on the top carousel. So you can get an idea that way too.
When you go to when you go to test rigs, are those being generated new, or is there 1,000 that are just that you can browse through?
There's just 1,000. Yeah, I just generated 1,000. The rendering,
Yeah, it's awesome.
yeah, I wanted to do it that way, but the rendering is kind of like resource intensive,
Mm-hmm.
So it would be quite slow to do it on.
I mean, how can everybody not be team tumblers? They're definitely the coolest.
Yeah. Some of the I really like the Ski Piggy chassis on the tumblers combined with the giant wheel.
Mm.
I don't know if you've seen a couple of those, but giant wheel on the tumblers where it's at.
Is that the one that you actually have on the rigs page on just /rigs? I know there's a Piggy. Oh no, it's a small wheel in the badge example.
Oh, that one is a small wheel. Yeah, that's the original Don Ski Piggy. Yeah, so one thing that's fun about these is that, so most of them are random, and they'll have parts from all the different originals. And once we don't currently have an easy way to generate all the originals, but Aaron's working on that. So once we do that, we'll put up all of them so you can see all 66 originals in all their different color schemes, which adds up to 181 total. And you'll be able to see like their names and everything. So like once we do the mint and you're looking on OpenSea, there'll be a trait just called name, and if that trait exists, then that it's an original. And then we also have a trait that is a numeric trait called percent original. So you'll be able to see like the percentage of your rig that all matches basically. And I think we'll have to tweak a bit of those percentages just to like spread the distribution out. Just in the current generator and in all these sample outputs, the percentage is kind of like uniformly distributed between 40 and 60 or something, but I want to get that so we you have it up to like 90% for some or super low. So Aaron's actually had some cool ideas for like making distribution functions for, I don't know, maybe we'll have to, that's a whole rabbit hole, but yeah, I think we're doing some cool stuff with the back end of this too. And I'm pumped to make it like an open source thing for anyone that wants to do a NFT on Tableland like this. There's a lot of reusable stuff.
That's awesome. It looks like we do have a question from someone in the community here. WB.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. I've been following you guys on Twitter a bit, and then I get on to other things. I wanted to thank you for all that you're doing for Web 2, because there's a lot of fish out there, and I'm curious if you're able to also send transactions based upon your queries through the Tableland protocol.
So see, send. See, or do you mean
Something like
right?
Something like I want to airdrop everybody who has an active address or who has a balance above this. I want to airdrop everybody a little bit of Ethereum.
Let's see.
Or is it primarily to manage you're creating lists, and then you would write a separate smart contract that interacts with Tableland?
Yeah, so I'm trying to see how I see what you're trying to do. Basically, when you write a normal SQL statement, that ends up going through the Tableland contracts on whatever layer you're targeting. And the purpose of that is to like order those statements, and then also to give you a chance to do some access control. So you could deploy a custom contract of yours that is the controller for your table. And you could say something like, only folks with 2 MeBits can write to this table, and they can only write to it in this particular way. Like they can only touch these columns. And maybe column B has to be greater than 20 or something like this. So in terms of like your airdrop flow, I think, well, so that doesn't need a table, I don't think, because you're not adding new state, you're just sending tokens, right?
May I wager a response?
Oh yeah.
So it sounds like you're asking, can you do something in response to a query on a table? In more generally, is that true?
Yeah, I'm just thinking in terms of like a financial institution that wants to send out an APR reward or something based upon some sort of wallet variable. Maybe they have an NFT, or they have a certain balance, or they haven't. Maybe they've had the coin there for a certain period of time, so we're enforcing a proof of stake requirement. But then, if they meet all those requirements, then we want to send them our branch office token, or a little bit of pure Ethereum.
Yeah, and then I think Sandra's right. In that case, you probably don't need a table unless you want to collect that state information in the table. But there are ways to react to those types of states using, like just listening or querying the chain and that sort of thing.
I was just thinking, Carson, like maybe it's just because you could be pushing a bunch of state to the table, and then you want to do the airdrop based on some query that filters down to specific users based on data in the table. Well, that read function doesn't have to happen from your smart contract. Like you could just, your branch office or whatever could run that read statement, get all the accounts that match the criteria, and trigger the drop to them with that list. Like that kind of flow would be very straightforward.
Totally.
Gotcha. And thanks so much for taking these questions. And it seems that, I mean, is the primary use case or a great use case seemed like it would be for gaming.
Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, so you're talking a little bit about generative art and just being able to, you're using the Tableland protocol to more cheaply generate these assets or process these different protocols that don't necessarily have to be processed on chain.
Right. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of ways you could do this, but what we're experimenting with rigs is, yeah, so like sort of the holy grail of generative art is where everything's on chain. And usually that ends up in like super pixel art or SVG stuff. And that stuff's awesome. But with Tableland, we're trying to say like, well, if you put all the data in tables and then you eventually kind of burn the access to those tables so they can't change, then in a sense, what you get is like this ability to do even mutable kind of things based on immutable rules, because the tables can be immutable and the way they can be combined can be sort of locked. So yeah, it's sort of like a different way to think about it. And it's definitely way cheaper. Yeah.
I like it. I love it.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks, WB.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Any
Yeah,
questions?
there's,
Ooh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, once we get some more, once we get these tables up on Tableland, we'll do some more like examples and stuff on the page and really kind of drive that flow home, because it's just want to make sure it's highlighted because it is really cool.
All right. I think if there are no more questions, we could call it a town hall. I'll just say I think we'll have a lot to report on in 2 weeks. Sort of the outcome of all of this season's work and our plans for next season should all be pretty well crystallized by then, and we're really excited to share it all with you. Things are moving so fast; it's really awesome. So, also, like I said early in the call, our docs just can't keep up right now, but we're working really hard to get them back up to speed and not let them get too far behind, because we have so much cool stuff for you to be building with. But yeah, until then, we'll chat with you on Discord. Bye, everybody.